The rain hammered against the windows of Marcus Webb's apartment in downtown Nashville as he stared at the crime scene photographs spread across his kitchen table. 23 years on the force, and he'd never seen anything like this. The body of philanthropist Richard Ashford lay in his luxury condo on Music Row, 3 bullets in his chest, his safe opened and emptied. But this wasn't a random robbery. The killer had left a message written in Ashford's blood on the bedroom mirror. He knew what I did. Marcus knew instantly that this case would consume him, just like the others. His ex-wife's words echoed in his mind. You love the darkness more than you love me. Maybe she was right. By dawn, Marcus was at the precinct, briefing his team on the case. His corrupt partner, Detective James Klein, stood in the corner with an unreadable expression. Marcus had always suspected something was off about Klein, the way criminals seemed to slip through his investigations, the expensive new car that didn't match his salary. But there was no time for internal affairs now. A man was dead, and Nashville's upper crust was demanding answers. The mayor called within hours. Richard Ashford had been a major political donor, connected to some of the city's most powerful people, including real estate mogul Vincent Marchetti. Within 24 hours, the FBI arrived in the form of criminal psychologist Sarah Chen, a brilliant woman whose reputation preceded her. She was cold, analytical, and terrifyingly perceptive. The moment she walked into the precinct, Marcus felt like she could see through his broken exterior, straight into his damaged soul. Sarah immediately began profiling the killer. The message on the mirror suggested personal vendetta, not professional theft. Someone close to Ashford, someone he'd wronged, someone consumed by anger and revenge. She requested all of Ashford's business dealings, personal relationships, and financial records. When they dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Richard Ashford wasn't just a philanthropist, he was a predator. Over the past decade, at least 6 women had filed complaints against him for sexual assault. Each case had been mysteriously dropped. Each victim had been paid off with hush money. Each complaint file had disappeared from the police database. Marcus felt his blood boil. Someone in the department had been protecting Ashford. Someone had been covering up his crimes. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He drove to the crime scene, sitting in his car outside Ashford's condo building. He needed to think, to piece together the fragmented clues. That's when he saw her. Emma Marchetti, Vincent's daughter, entering the building through a side entrance. Emma, who claimed to barely know Ashford. Emma, whose hands were shaking as she looked over her shoulder. Marcus decided to follow her, his detective instincts screaming that she was connected to this case. Inside the building, he watched through the hallway as Emma entered Ashford's apartment. The crime scene, the place still cordoned off for evidence collection. But the lock had been picked. Someone had broken the seal. When Marcus confronted her, Emma collapsed against the hallway wall, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't kill him," Emma whispered, her voice breaking. "But I know who did, and I've been trying to protect my father." Emma's confession poured out in fragments. 6 months ago, Richard Ashford had attacked her at a party. She'd fought back, escaped, but she'd never reported it because her father had convinced her that coming forward would destroy their family business and reputation. A week later, Emma learned she wasn't alone. 3 other women had come forward to her privately, telling her similar stories. They were forming a support group, meeting in secret, deciding whether to expose Ashford. Emma had found evidence that her father, Vincent Marchetti, knew about Ashford's crimes, but had done nothing because they were business partners worth millions together. The moral conflict was destroying her from the inside.
Sarah Chen listened to Emma's statement with careful attention, asking probing questions that peeled back layers of psychological defense. She realized immediately that Emma wasn't the killer, but she knew who was. One of the other victims, a woman named Lisa Torres, had been working as Ashford's office manager for 2 years. Lisa had watched Ashford assault women repeatedly without consequence. Lisa's sister had been Ashford's victim 2 years prior, and the trauma had driven her to attempt suicide. Lisa had become obsessed with revenge, waiting for the perfect moment. When Ashford's security system had been down for maintenance 3 days before the murder, Lisa had a locksmith friend disable the alarms completely. She'd entered his apartment, confronted him with the truth, forced him to confess to his crimes on her phone's hidden recorder, and when he'd tried to call security, she'd pulled the gun she'd stolen from an evidence locker. The gun came from a case Marcus had worked 2 years ago. She'd bribed Detective James Klein to smuggle it out. The moment Sarah presented this evidence to Marcus and Klein, everything clicked into place. Klein's face went white. He'd been protecting Ashford's crimes for cash. He'd been helping victims disappear their cases in exchange for money paid by Vincent Marchetti, who wanted to keep his business partner's crimes hidden. Klein had even helped smuggle the murder weapon to Lisa through an intermediary. He was a facilitator of predatory systems, a cop who'd sold his badge to the highest bidder. Marcus felt a wave of betrayal and disgust wash over him. He'd worked beside Klein for 12 years, had trusted him with his back on dangerous calls, and the man had been rotting from the inside. The confession room where Lisa Torres sat across from Marcus and Sarah was tense and suffocating. Lisa was calm, almost serene. She'd known she'd be caught. She'd wanted to be caught. She'd orchestrated this perfectly, planning to confess everything, to expose Ashford's crimes, to force Vincent Marchetti's involvement into the light. When asked why she'd done it, Lisa simply said, "Because the system failed. Because the police failed. Because rich men thought they could destroy women and walk away. I wanted him to confess before I killed him. I wanted everyone to know exactly what he was." Marcus couldn't deny her logic, though he couldn't condone her actions either. Justice and murder weren't the same thing, even when the victim deserved judgment. As Vincent Marchetti was led into the precinct in handcuffs, charged with conspiracy and covering up sexual assaults, Sarah turned to Marcus with a knowing look. "This case was never just about the murder," she said quietly. "It was about corruption, complicity, and a system designed to protect monsters. Ashford was just the visible symptom of a much deeper disease." Emma Marchetti watched her father's face crumble as the enormity of his moral failures finally caught up with him. She'd already hired a lawyer, prepared to testify against both her father and Ashford's legacy, to help the victims find peace. In that moment, as James Klein was being escorted out in disgrace, his career destroyed, Marcus finally felt something shift. The darkness he'd been chasing for 23 years had a face now. It had names. And while Lisa Torres would face justice for her actions, so would everyone else complicit in allowing a predator to operate with impunity.